What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking fantasy football. We're going to be waiting, and hopefully Blake will join this live stream. But as of right now, we're going to kind of talk about just some of the things that are going on in fantasy football. People are getting primed. They're getting hyped up. They're getting ready. We're starting to see a lot of mock drafts take place. We're starting to see a lot of rankings being put in place. You know, that's what is exciting. That is why this is so much fun. And we're going to dive in. Honestly, there's a lot of different rankings out there. There's a lot of different ways to really put players in tiers and places and things like that. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the quarterback position. We're really going to be breaking down, kind of like 1 through 10. Kind of just what we feel, because after that, it kind of starts to become a hit or miss when it comes to fantasy. A lot of them, you can kind of have that top tier. You can expect to definitely get a decent amount of points. You almost fall down to another tier, which would be kind of like tier 2. And you can kind of almost guarantee you're going to get a pretty consistent score there week in and week out. Tier 3, it starts to fall off. And then really, honestly, tier 4 is a coin flip, in my opinion. So it really just depends on players, who's supporting that quarterback, and also you're talking about a good receiving core. And you really have to take into consideration offensive line too. There's just a lot that goes into it when picking a quarterback, and it's just completely different when it comes to where a quarterback goes in the draft. Obviously, I would consider, and this is just me, I would consider the running back as one of the most important positions to kind of really get your pick from. I would also say if you're truly going to go tight end, then you're definitely going to want to get a tight end at a decent point in the first part of your draft. I would say probably the one that has the most depth, and you could find those types of guys later on in the draft, are going to be the receiving position. So really kind of how you look at it, what you want to go with. I've seen all kinds of different things. You see a lot of people go running back, receiver. That way they get at least a very good elite running back, and they also will then pair them with a very good elite receiver. You see some people go heavy on the running back. You see people that, like to go running back. And then depending on the style of draft, there's a ton of different styles of drafts. You have obviously the snake draft, you have auction style. And one that me and Blake didn't even, really mention in the last live stream that we talked about was the fact that, we didn't even really talk DraftKings or FanDuel. And that's something that hopefully we can incorporate as this continues to grow and expand. And it's just going to be exciting, definitely, to see, where this goes. I'm looking forward to most definitely talking about fantasy football. It's something that I'm pretty passionate about. I'm in a ton of leagues. And I just really, it is a way to really allow you to really enjoy no matter what game is on TV. Not every matchup is going to be that eye-popping, I can't miss, football game. But when you're really diving into fantasy football, you have a couple players going on maybe not such a good game. You're going to be interested. You're going to want to watch, and that's what I think is super, super exciting. And so, yeah, I could not be more excited about this upcoming season for fantasy football. I kind of want to recap real quick before I dive in a little bit more on, Blake and I talked last time about, the different styles. You obviously have, like I stated a little bit previously, you have auction style. You have kind of like your keeper leagues. You have, your traditional drafting. There's honestly a ton of different ways. And I really think that that's something that I wanted to emphasize again, is that there's a ton of different platforms as well. Obviously you have ESPN, you have Yahoo, and NFL. You really kind of have a ton of different platforms that you can play fantasy football on. One that most people aren't aware of, and I've used it, it's called Fantasy, or Fuzzy Fantasy Football. And that's out there. I've used that. Obviously, a lot of people use DraftKings. A lot of people use FanDuel. So really, there is a ton of options depending on what you're wanting to really get incorporated with. So I'm super excited. Definitely looking forward to breaking this stuff down, and we'll kind of dive into it. the first thing I'm actually going to go over before we get really into this, because I'm going to wait to see if Blake joins. What's going on, Nora? Appreciate you coming in and checking out the live stream on fantasy football. I kind of wanted to break down and talk a little bit about tight ends. And I think that's significant. Oh, Blake is actually here. He is.
What's up, guys?
There he is. What's going on, man? What's going on? We were recapping, talking a little bit about what we talked about the last live stream, kind of getting everybody up to date, caught up on the whole entire, setups and where you can actually play fantasy football and things like that. I was going to dive into some tight end talk, but since you popped in, let's go ahead and fire up the old quarterback talk. So, yeah, man, I kind of hit on it right before. Obviously, there's a tier system. I would consider there being a tier. You obviously have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then I would just say the rest. I mean, let's just be honest. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with my top 5 and kind of just see what your thoughts are and then compare them to your top 5, because I think that, I don't know if we'll have the same. And then if we don't, then I'd be interested to hear our differences is why we think. So
for sure, I do just want to say, before we do everything, I do want to apologize. I know I wasn't on time, but everybody, we're good. I was getting my studio set up here. I had to have my phone charged because we're about to get into this stuff, and I didn't want my phone to not be able to handle all the knowledge we're about to break down. So
yeah, I mean, it's about to get hot and heavy up in here. So number 1 is going to be, let's be honest, it's Tom Brady. No more questions. Let's go ahead and move to number 2. I'm kidding, of course.
I was like, wait, what?
I had to see,
I was so ready for you to say somebody else. I even agreed with you. I was like, of course. And then I was like, wait, what?
You have to kind of tease the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans down there. But Patrick Mahomes, let's be real. Patrick Mahomes is going to be, I would say, our unanimous number 1. Is that correct?
I think it has to be. The only other argument that could be made is reigning MVP Aaron Rodgers. That's about it. That's really the only person that might be on that number 1 absolute overall.
Okay. So my number 2 is going to be Kyler Murray. And the reason I put Kyler there is because I think a lot around him has really developed. I actually had him in fantasy and ESPN last year and was beyond satisfied with his play. Was most definitely nowhere near the top of a pick. I ended up getting him in the late rounds like you and I both suggested. So I put Kyler there. I think obviously with the tools that are around him, they go out and they sign AJ Green. They have D-Hop. Christian Kirk is coming back. Andy Isabella is back. And, there's just a lot that is around him. I really like Kyler. They go out, add James Conner. What are your thoughts with Kyler being there at 2?
That's probably a little high for Kyler, but he's still probably bottom tier, top 5 for me. Or else first pick, like 6 or 7. So that's not a horrible spot for him. I like his weapons. I also just like the fact that he is a dual threat. And anybody who's going to be a dual threat, I just think if you're looking at major dual threats, you're really looking at Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. But I believe that Kyler has a better weapon set around him to allow him to make bigger plays. Most people expect Lamar Jackson to run. He's still going to be able to do that. But when you have a plethora of weapons around you, it allows for more the defense has a lot more weapons to worry about. So I like Kyler there because he can do so many different things. He is so versatile that I have no problem with that.
Sounds good, man. So who do you got at your number 2?
So, yeah, unanimous overall number 1 is going to be Patrick Mahomes. I would say if I have to put Patrick at 1, I'm going to just put Aaron Rodgers at 2 because he is coming off an MVP season. He does still have one of the best wide receivers in the game, even though I love Tyreek Hill. Devontae Adams is an absolute animal out there. He's got Aaron Jones. He's got the Lizard King himself, Lazard. I think, and I believe, and this is really going to segue later into our tight end talk, but I believe this is going to be a really big year for Robert Tonyan. So I just like what Aaron Rodgers has as far as weapons go.
Okay. I like that. So number 3 for me is going to be Josh Allen. I could easily see him being put at number 2, but I like what they have there. I've still seen some inconsistencies. I know he just got that massive, massive contract. But for me, there's some things that I still want to be able to see. I guess you got to kind of set aside some of the actual performance that we see as fans and really kind of have to put in perspective fantasy football. But I do think that there's times where he could have capitalized a lot more. And so that's why he falls in number 3 for me. I do like the targets he's thrown to. Obviously, he threw to Stephon Diggs, who was by far one of the best receivers last year. And
For sure.
They go out and add Emmanuel Sanders. The running back system there is very versatile, as they can catch out of the backfield, but also a very heavy ground and pound style of running that they have. But they also have some tight ends there, Dawson Knox and a few of those guys. So they are definitely, they have the weapons. I just think it comes down sometimes to Josh Allen and his performance when pressure is applied in a game. What are your thoughts on that?
I like that pick a lot. I think Josh Allen is extremely versatile. He's a big, tough, tall, big quarterback. He's going to be able to do it on the ground. He's going to be able to do it through the air. Stephon Diggs was absolutely magical last year for me in my fantasy season. And I think that the connection between him and Diggs is only going to become better. I think Diggs has solidified himself as easily a top 10 wide receiver, possibly top 5 if you're looking at straight numbers.
Yeah.
Top 10 definitely talent-wise. So I like Josh Allen.
Most definitely, man. So who do you got at number 3?
So at number 3, I think that I'm going to have to, because I have Patrick at 1. I got Aaron Rodgers at 2. So far for my number 3, it's going to be a little tricky because I also like to factor in strength of schedule with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And with quarterbacks specifically, I like to look at the defenses they're playing. Are they going to have a pass easy defense? Are they going to have a heavy pass rush? Are they going to have a big offense? So the offense might take more time and to keep you off the field. So I think I'm going to have to go with my number 3, Derek Carr. No, I'm just kidding. I would never.
We're not talking defenses. We're talking quarterbacks.
If I was playing defense, for sure. I think for my number 3, it's probably going to be a toss-up between Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson. I just love the fact, everything you've already stated about Kyler Murray. I love what he does. I love that he has a bunch of weapons, and he's a dual threat. Russell Wilson, to me, he's always going to get you points. Like always. A lot of times. Now, he is going to be running for his life, unfortunately, because they just never seem to help him out on the offensive line at all. But because of the situations I think he's going to be put in, he's going to have to throw the ball. Him and DK Metcalf are only going to continue to get better. Hopefully, Chris Carson can stay healthy. They can do something this year. But I do like just everything that Russell Wilson can potentially bring you to the table. I think my next 2 are going to be a little bit more surprising for you. But okay. I like either Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson at my number 3.
Okay, sounds good, man. So my number 4, I think, will catch you off guard potentially.
Okay.
And so I like what he has. He had a tremendous year last year, but it was his first year.
Oh, don't you say it.
So you and I both talked about the tight end position, which we're going to be talking about, but they do go add Jared Cook, even though they're losing Hunter Henry. My number 4 is going to be Justin Herbert.
I hate you so much. I'm in 100% agreement. That was going to be mine.
So seriously, I like Justin Herbert there because obviously Keenan Allen is a fantasy receiving machine. The guy catches a ton. When healthy, though, that's the biggest key right there. But I think Herbert found a way to put up some pretty tremendous numbers. And I think that he is going to definitely rebound not necessarily rebound, but progress in a more positive direction even more. I'm excited for Justin Herbert, even though I am a Kansas City Chiefs fan. From a fantasy perspective, I can definitely see why people would go out and draft Justin Herbert. What are your thoughts on Justin Herbert?
So I absolutely love what I think Justin Herbert's going to bring. The fact that he was a rookie last year and was able to I mean, I think of all the people last year, you had Tua, you had Joe Burrow, you had these quarterbacks that a lot of guys thought were going to be very good, and yet nobody paid attention to Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has all the talent in the world, can make almost any throw on the field. He truly is, like, even as a Chiefs fan, he truly does pose a threat to the Chiefs, which is going to make for great games because when the Chargers are good in the division, I believe the division is better as a whole, especially because of how they interact with the Chiefs. He now has Jared Cook at tight end. Jared Cook didn't get a whole lot of play last year in a kind of a weird offense for the New Orleans Saints. They had so many weapons, they almost didn't know what to do with everybody. But Jared Cook, when he used to play for the Raiders, absolutely balled. Then they got Darren Waller. Jared Cook departed. Now Jared Cook comes back to a team that absolutely needs a tight end.
Yes.
He's going to get the ball. Jalen Waddell is going to get the ball. Keenan Allen's going to get the ball. Mike Williams is going to get the ball. And, oh, by the way, they have Austin Eckler in the backfield. Don't worry. He could be the next Captain Checkdown, Mr. Alex Smith, because he's got a guy in the background or in the backfield who can catch just as good as a wide receiver. So I think Justin Herbert at a number 4 spot. I mean, if you have Justin Herbert in your lineup, you probably got, depending on where you drafted him, you could get a very good steal with Justin Herbert.
For sure. And I think to kind of talk a little bit real quick, I was kind of looking at some of the auctions. So I'll give you some rundowns real quick because not everybody likes to do the traditional snake draft or just the traditional draft. So some of the auctions I'm seeing here, Patrick Mahomes is projected to go for $10. Josh Allen is projected to go for $10. Kyler Murray is projected to go for $8. We did mention Aaron Rodgers, so I'll put him in there for $4. Russell Wilson is mentioned in there for $4. Herbert, $4. And then we'll get into some rest. But I think what that really displays to you, too, because depending on how much, salary you are allotted for your auction-style draft, I think that just indicates right there how much people should really spend truly on a quarterback when, in comparison, the number one running back for an auction-style draft is Christian McCaffrey, and they project him getting $62. So, again, that just translates to where people really envision drafting a quarterback. So you said you had Herbert right there as well? So
I also had Herbert at number 4. That's why I was like, I think I might surprise you, but how could I surprise you? We're both equally football-minded people. So
that's like you and me both playing paper, rock, scissors and throwing paper a couple times in a row. So and number 5 for me, I definitely wanted to put him in the top 5, is obviously Aaron Rodgers. I could have put him a little bit higher because I started to take into factor this could be his last year in a Packers uniform. He stated that I'm pretty sure it's going to be. I think he's got a lot to prove, even though that sounds crazy because he was the reigning MVP. But I think he's got a lot to prove to the next team. Like, hey, I'm not going to let this offseason bother me. I'm going to go out and prove who I am for my next team. It's kind of like a tryout for the next team, even though we know what he's capable of doing. So I put Aaron Rodgers on there. Obviously Adams is a beast when healthy. I had him the year prior, and, I really kind of had some mixed feelings about him, but I saw what he put up last year, and that was absolutely phenomenal. And like you said, he has the weapons that are there.
Yeah.
I really like their backfield. You got A.J. Dillon and I always forget the other running back's name because Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, man, I like what they got, but catching
now,
out of the backfield.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They lost Jamal Williams, correct? Or is he still there? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Jamal Williams is gone. So, yeah, A.J. Dillon fills in pretty solid. I know when Aaron Jones was down, Dillon actually ran really, really well. So,
Dillon is a powerhouse. Like, he's – and just foreshadowing for the running backs, he's a good backup to have maybe because of the way they do a dual system in Green Bay. He might be a good guy down the line, but we'll get into more of that when we cover running backs.
For sure. So who did you have at number 5?
So at number 5, I have another toss-up spot, and I know that's probably going against really the official rankings, but I like Lamar Jackson just because of what he brings. The fact that I'm looking at a lot of rankings and Dak Prescott is at number 5 makes me vomit. I'm like, I don't understand why people put Dak Prescott so high. Is he a good quarterback? Yes. I think he's probably the 16th, 14th best quarterback in the league.
Okay.
I just think it's weird that I see him ranked so high. somebody that, especially in the first 5 to 6 weeks, I think everybody slept on last year, but I know that he did really good, especially with the new addition of one of the greatest receivers to ever grace the field. I have a toss-up between Lamar Jackson and Ryan Tannehill.
Okay.
The reason I have Ryan Tannehill in there is because he now has a complete team around him.
Mm-hmm.
He has himself, who can be a dual set quarterback when he tries. He's more of a passer. He's very accurate. I kind of joked about Alex Smith with Justin Herbert, but really Tannehill does a lot better job of emulating the way that Alex played the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex got you points, but Tannehill is just way more consistent. He's got a great run game. So what's going to be happening against Derrick Henry? They're going to be packing the box with 8 men usually, which opens up a lot of guys. Now, you can't both pack the box and double team Julio.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, they have A.J. Brown.
Yep.
So, I just like what I think they're going to bring to the table, because last year I thought they were missing a piece, and he still put up top 10 fantasy numbers. The first 5 weeks of Tannehill's season this year is against Arizona.
Okay.
Bad defense. Bad passing defense. Seattle, bad passing defense. Indianapolis, not horrible. They do have actually a pretty good defense usually, but they've been dinged up a little bit, so that's going to be. And then right after that, you have the New York Jets and then the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the first 5 weeks that you play, I guarantee you, Tannehill's going to be putting up 24 points a game, 25 points a game, 26 points a game, possibly 32 points, depending on how. I mean, Jacksonville's horrible. The Jets are horrible. Seattle's easy to score on. Arizona could be a toss-up just depending on how they work out. But the first 5 weeks, I think Tannehill could explode, and that's going to set the tone for his entire season. Oh, and it's going to let them get on track with Julio Jones. So if you can start making a connection between Julio those first 5 weeks versus very bad defenses, I think he's going to put up crazy numbers this year.
You know, and I'm excited for Tannehill. I'm actually going to give you my next, we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll give you my next 5, just a quick rundown in order, because Tannehill made my roster, but I'll kind of give you my thoughts on why I think I put him where I did. So number 6 is going to be Russell Wilson. I actually went and reviewed their depth chart today, because I remember the stretch of games where Russell Wilson last year was on pace to be the MVP. Like, the dude was lights out, throwing for 3 to 4 touchdowns. It seemed like every time, not throwing any picks, was just on fire. And then it's literally like a switch was flipped. And then we see why Russell Wilson apparently wanted out of Seattle and everything like that. So I put Russell there. I definitely would not have any arguments of putting him in the top 5. I think, but my only concern is outside of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf this year, I didn't know hardly any of the receivers, and I pay pretty close attention to football. So that seemed a little bit concerning to me. I'm definitely going to have to dive in and see if I can recognize any more of those guys, because I care about what Russell Wilson can put on the field. He has Chris Carson, so it'll be interesting. Lamar Jackson is at number 7. That's tough for me because, I like Lamar because of what he's capable of doing, but you don't know if you're going to get that Lamar. That's my biggest problem with Lamar Jackson is you have those moments where you put up 30 to 40 points. You have incredible moments because he's rushing the football. But then you also have those moments where there's a lot of pressure applied, and it's like the game is relied upon him, and he just crumbles. I mean, every time they play the Chiefs, it seems like that's what happens. So my number 8 is Dak Prescott, and I do like Dak for a couple reasons. My biggest reason for liking Dak is because of the receiving core that he has around him. Now, my biggest concern right now is the fact that Amari Cooper, I believe, is on the PUP list.
Yeah.
Zeke is coming back, though, and we know what Zeke can do when healthy and really in a good mode, man. I really think Zeke can – and he's got something to prove. I mean, that's something we have to take into consideration.
I would agree with you there. I think Zeke's one of the only running backs ever to come into the league the way he did and then decline over the next 4 straight years. So if he does, I mean, he clearly does have something to prove, because I don't know if I put a whole bunch of faith in Zeke. Is he going to go out there and get you some points? For sure. Like that's not. It's more of, is he going to be that elite running back that he was the first year and really the second year? I don't know. It's going to be. There's reports that he lost weight in camp or before camp, coming into camp, so he's feeling light. He's feeling quick on his feet. If so, that could definitely bode well. They also have CeeDee Lamb. When Amari Cooper's healthy, he's good. CeeDee Lamb is going to take a jump up this year. They also have Michael Gallup. So I do agree that they do have weapons around them. I just don't know if I trust, and I don't know if it's more of a lack of trust in Dak Prescott or if it's a lack of trust in Mike McCarthy. Last year, obviously, was a little jacked up because he broke his ankle. So, like, coming off that, I don't know how he's going to be. That's why I think I had to keep him out of my top 5.
Well, take in consideration of this, man, and this is something I really do. If he is healthy, that defense is still atrocious. I mean, that defense is not going to stop a nosebleed when it comes to running the football. Unless Micah Parsons and Van Der Esch finds a way to be Superman and stay healthy, it's kind of going to be a question mark on that defense. So if a team is continuously putting up points, they're going to have to rely on Dak to really keep them in that game. And from a fantasy perspective, I'm like, man, that's big. But that's why I had to keep him out of my top 5 and really kind of pushing him down more towards 10 is because I do understand that there are moments where Zeke's probably going to ground and pound a lot, and you're going to see a lot more fantasy points transition to him versus Dak getting a lot. My number 9 is going to be Tom Brady. And I really wanted to get your thoughts on that because we understand. I saw an article today. I actually joined up with, Border Fuel. I'm actually a contributor for Border Fuel now, and I saw an article written on there that they were writing about Tampa Bay having the best receiving core in the NFL. And so then when I was writing this up, I took into consideration some of their receivers, obviously. Mike Evans, Godwin, they go out and they have 3 separate tight ends. Gronk is coming back, even though he seems like an aging tight end. But, they have tons of weapons. They have some running backs. What are your thoughts on Brady being at 9?
I like that. Brady is a guy that no longer puts up about 345 yards a game with 3 touchdowns. That's just not the bag that he plays. Yeah. Typically what he'll do is he'll get you about 270 with 2 touchdowns, no picks. Well, last year he did throw a few picks, but typically he'll do the job. I don't even know if I would have him in my top 10. I would because his name's Tom Brady. Yeah. But other than that, if I'm really looking at it, now last year could have been a fluke with not a fluke, but just the transition from joining a new team, getting the new rhythm with Mike Evans, bringing Gronk back, and not having him been in the league for 2 years. All those factors do play in. So on the absolute ceiling of what they have, for sure, I could easily see him at number 9 because of the ceiling. But as far as how I evaluate that realistically, I'm looking at him probably more like 11, 12, only because I don't know if he's going to match that ceiling. But ceiling could put him all the way up at 6.
Yeah. And I'd agree. And my interchange right there is because I got one more, but my interchange is actually going to be Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is obviously traded to a very high-powered throwing offense. My only concern, too, is having that counter with the running game with Cam Akers going down with that Achilles injury. So I'm a little kind of like, but we know they love to throw the football, and they love to come up with some pretty creative plays, very similar to not quite as extreme as Kansas City, but they do definitely like to do some creative things with Sean McVay and that mastermind down there. So I could definitely plug him in at 9. My 10 is Tannehill, and I agree 100% with everything you said about Ryan Tannehill. I love the Julio Jones edition. I wish it was a Kansas City Chiefs edition, but my only concern is when a situation is on, kind of similar to what we were talking about with Dak. If pressure is applied and he starts throwing more interceptions and those points we start to see kind of trend down, I'm concerned with that as 1. And 2, you also stated it as well. They feed the rock to the superhuman Derrick Henry a lot, and there are times where he gets a ton of carries, and that really limits the amount of numbers that Tannehill is going to put up. That's the only reason why I put him at 10. But I do like, some of the some of the things that you stated. I really do. I think, as far as a weapons, I mean, you got A.J. Brown, like you said, Derrick Henry, Julio Jones now. I really like what they have going there. And they do have some depth at the receiver position. So what are your thoughts on the 6 through 10? And then what do you got?
So I liked everything you said about your 6 through 10. Obviously, I had 10 to Hill. I had a couple guys up there a little higher.
Yeah.
I believe you had Aaron Rodgers who was your 6?
6 was Wilson.
Was Wilson. Okay. So I think the reason that I put so much on Tannehill to be at that number 5 originally and not drop to the lower is because the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season last year is really when he started putting everything together. And I think that's what impressed me was later in the season, you got better and better, which means you felt comfortable with the team that you had. Also, I thought he did pretty well against the blitz. The last 4 weeks, I believe, or the last 5 weeks, he put up 27 and above in the last 5 weeks. So I thought that was key because I was looking at his schedule. Beginning's a little easy if you're rolling off of a season from last year. So I like that. That's really why I had him a little bit higher. But the Tom Brady one, I do like. I think his upside is huge, but realistically, is that going to happen? I don't know. I just don't know if he'll be able to when you look at the upside of Mahomes, it's astronomical, and you expect it to be that high. Tom Brady is one of those ones where, I think we still believe Tom is great, but maybe he's just really good now. And he has the quality defense around him that he doesn't have to play from behind. And I think it's kind of weird because when you look at fantasy, it's like the top 5 usually are good teams.
Yeah.
The next 5 are usually guys that just put up numbers because whether they might be a 500 team, but they got to throw the rock to win the game. So I would probably say my next 5. We're going to look a little bit like this. Hold on 1 second. I would probably have my next 5. So at number 6, I'm probably going to put Josh Allen.
Okay.
He wasn't in my top 5. I do believe he's now at number 6, just with everything he's got. Or hold on. Now I'm confused. I put Pat, Aaron, Russell, Kyler, Justin Herbert. I had a split. I had 2 splits, didn't I? And Tannehill. Okay, yeah. So I would say Josh Allen's right outside my top 5, so he's number 6.
Okay.
Pretty much everything you said. I just love the fact that what he brings to the table with that offense. And I do apologize if I already said him earlier because I probably shouldn't have done the splits. But at number 7, I'm probably going to go ahead and put Matt Stafford.
Okay.
I know they lost Cam Akers. I just think Matt has so much to prove this year, especially now that he's out of the absolute death trap that is Detroit Lions. Now that he's outside of Detroit, he actually has people that I think want to see him succeed, and they're going to give him the weapons. They've got Robert Woods. They got Cooper Kupp, who's a machine when it comes to catching the ball. Cam Akers definitely hurts.
Yes.
But I think they're going to be able to work around that. Stafford just makes plays, so I believe him at number 7 is the proper spot for him. Because I did a split earlier, I think I'm going to come back, and I might put Lamar at my number 8.
Okay.
I split him earlier. I'm officially going to take him out of the top 5 and put him at my number 8.
Okay.
Just because I don't think Sammy Watkins is going to be a huge attribute to them. He wasn't for the Chiefs. He doesn't stay healthy. Love the guy to death. I mean, great teammate, huge in the playoffs. But as far as regular season goes, I think defenses are going to be trying to stop Lamar more and more because he is the focal point. Now, if Hollywood Brown can actually progress the way I think he could with route running and speed, I mean, the speed is fantastic. Plus, they have great tight ends. They have 2 really good tight ends. So he does have weapons. If they can just learn to kind of play either dink and dunk, small ball, and pound the run game, but that small ball or the run game will open up big plays for that small ball. Plus, he's a dual threat. He's another guy that turned it on at the end of last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a positive. Like the beginning of the year was a little rough for him. At the end, he started putting weeks and weeks together, which I like to see. So as long as I can see consistency, there you go. So
Okay.
I would also say probably at my number 9, I think I agree with you. I think Tom Brady fits that space perfectly just because of the upside could be huge.
Yeah.
Especially coming off of a win with your brand new team, second year in the league, or second year with this team now. Now you're getting all the kinks out of your routes, getting all the kinks out. These receivers are going to learn how Brady likes to throw routes. They're going to learn how Brady works the system. I think that is a perfect spot for him at number 9. And then at number 10, you know, I really probably would say the young guys like the Jalen Hurtses and the Joe Burrows. I just don't know if there's enough. I'm not a big Kirk Cousins fan either. Yeah. Definitely wouldn't put any money on Trevor Lawrence just because I don't trust that rookie and that system in that town. So it might have to be a toss-up, man. Like, I like Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
I like the weapons around him.
Okay.
I think that what they did last year, Baker got a taste. I think he's finally feeling a little bit comfortable. I don't think Odell Beckham's going to be his biggest guy, but I do think the combo of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt with him, the tight end game, and then the Peoples, his new receiver, kind of emerging onto the scene now. Plus you have Landry, plus you have Odell. I think that leaves a very high ceiling for Baker as well. Now they do have kind of a tough division. I think the Steelers are going to be good this year. They're going to be playing the Ravens, but I think he's just an intriguing player, and maybe it's just the way he competes. I love to see a competitor. So I believe that there's a possibility this could be his big leap year forward. I think a lot of people thought it was going to come about 2 years ago, but sometimes these things take time. But to me, he's gotten better and better each year. Yeah. So I think Baker's one of those guys that could really show us, hey, he's either meant to be in the league this year, or maybe it's just not in the cards. And I think the upside's pretty good.
Well, he's going to be playing for a contract too soon. I mean,
exactly. Guess what? Contract year, undefeated, baby.
He's going to have to.
Your name, Jorge Soler.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Well, I don't know who anybody's taking him in fantasy or not, but but yeah, man, I agree. I like it. I definitely think that Baker could easily be a top 10. I think it's amazing after we go through this and just to see who is left that we didn't even talk about. So I
didn't put Cam in my top 10, and he's still not a bad pick. But
I have him in my my deep dynasty league, and I'm a little nervous on having Cam. But before we dive any deeper, I'm gonna get to some comments real quick. Some people have been popping in. Nora says, I like the background graphics, Lucas. That's what's up. That's Arrowhead, GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. And then she also commented and said, did someone say fantasy tight end? We will be getting to some tight ends. It won't be probably as in-depth because there really isn't that many that we can go elite about. And then Gary coming in with the beat of KC. Good to see you. Well, good to see you too, Gary. So appreciate the comments, guys, and we're going to dive back into this. So, Blake, I have a question for you, my friend.
I've got an answer for you, as always, my guy.
I got you. If you could pick any quarterback that we did not mention, who is your sleeper pick that you would be adding? And I'm going to pull a Blake Schnieders, and I'm going to go a split when it's my turn. So, go ahead with your pick.
So I think a sleeper that a lot of people probably might not like, but an absolute sleeper to me, I think I might go Jameis Winston, man. The reason is he'd had a year with Drew Brees. I understand there's a controversy with him and Taysom Hill. There's not. I think it's one of those things where Jameis in the year that he put up those big numbers, 50 touchdowns, but 30 interceptions, I think he might start to finally learn how to become a quarterback. I think his eyes might have gotten better. He didn't look bad at the end of last year when he got a couple chances to play, especially stepping in for Drew Brees. Now that is an absolute sleeper. Like that is like sedated sleeper. Like that's a guy you didn't even think about him. But to me, there's just I almost hold on to this hope that he could come out here and absolutely sling the rock because we know he can. It's about minimizing the turnovers. If you look at the points that he could have put up the year that he threw 50 touchdowns, they would have been insane. But the interceptions negated him so bad. But if you take 10 of those interceptions away, let's say he went 15 and 20, he still would have put up massive points for you. So I think with the offense, now hopefully Michael Thomas is okay and he's able to go. But I just, for some reason, I like that could be something that everybody at the end of the year goes, you know what? You know who blew us away that nobody thought would? Jameis Winston.
So most of the time I would agree with you. I agree with you on almost everything. You know, obviously the show 30 for 30. They actually have a show called 50 for 50, and that's named after Jameis Winston because he threw 50 touchdowns, but also threw for 50 interceptions. It's just incredible. You should actually go check it out. It is a great series. Somehow he is sponsored by Crab Legs. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I obviously have seen. But, man, I tell you, that is a dumpster fire. As a kid, I speak as a kid because I'm going on 33 years old. I know you're much younger than that. I used to light dog poop in a bag and throw it on a porch of somebody. That's what is going on down there in New Orleans.
We did that too.
I tell you, the whole situation that is going on down there with just everything, man. Like the only thing that I see any positivity is Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas tweets right now basically saying like, I hope this information doesn't come out basically because I withheld and now oh my God, it is not a good situation. Taysom Hill, obviously, like you said, I don't think that is going to be a competition, but I definitely think Taysom Hill is going to get his wildcat snaps and he's going to be doing some crazy stuff. It's just going to be kind of curious to see what goes on down there because, they don't have an Emmanuel Sanders anymore. So it's going to be interesting. My hot take sleeper pick is actually going to be two players. They're both young. It's going to be Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. I'm excited for both. I think Joey B has a lot to offer, especially with his receiving core. If Mixon can stay healthy, I think that kind of helps out there. They did go out and get Chubba Hubbard. Sounds like bubblegum. But I like what they have going on there as far as receivers. I mean, those are some pretty solid receivers. And they got Boyd, Higgins, and they go out and get Jamar Chase in the draft. They have Samples as a tight end who's not going to be like super elite, but he's going to be there. And I like what they have built up there. The question mark is he going to be protected from the left tackle position?
I think that was probably my biggest concern was just the O-line with Burrows because I think his talent is insane. I just don't know if he can stay protected.
Yeah. And then my next one obviously is Jalen Hurts. I think he has the potential to be special, but there's been rumors of a trade floating around and it'll be interesting to see if Devonta Smith stays healthy. He's kind of been having some injuries in training camp. And then they have Jalen Reagor and Zach Ertz and Dallas Goddard. So he has some weapons, an aging offensive line. The running backs are kind of a question mark. But I think Jalen Hurts, if it's a deep league and you really need like a potential quarterback, I think Hurts fits that. But man, I really want to kind of go down real quick and just mention some of the quarterbacks we did not mention. And
real quick before you do that, I do want to add one more because I started going down my list and I can't believe I didn't add this in. But I picked Jameis really because whatever reason, like I think that could be good. But there's two other guys potentially, or I'll just go with the one other guy,
Drew Lock.
Really?
No,
I was like, really? Because Bridgewater's coming for that ass.
I thought you were going to say Drew Lock.
I think coming off of and again, as long as they play at home, but with the weapons he has, the adding of Najee Harris, I think Ben Roethlisberger could be a guy that could do some stuff this year.
Yeah. I mean, they still got Juju. The only thing is James Washington wants out.
James Washington wants out, but they also have Chase Claypool, and Chase Claypool for a rookie last year had a great year, and I think he's only going to get better. Yeah, it's unfortunate what's going on with the Washington situation, but I think Claypool, as long as he progresses, he could turn or at least take a little bit of that focus away from Juju, because I don't believe Juju really is a number one. I think he truly is a really good number two. Yeah. So it depends if Claypool is going to advance to be as good as a number two or even a number one.
I like the receiving core there. I mean, Claypool is going all out in a preseason game. The guy's bouncing off the turf, catching the football, knocking the wind out of him.
And I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, for sure. I like the receiving core. I think Najee Harris is way better than what James Conner provides. I think James Conner needs a dual, like a double type running back system, and I think he'll fit well down there in Arizona with that, obviously in Chase Edmonds. But I definitely like Najee. I think they're going to feed the rock to him a lot, just because, Roethlisberger is aging and he, just the situation there. But I definitely, because we have to consider the leagues we're going to be talking about. People are going to be doing super flexes. They are going to be doing leagues where they can draft two quarterbacks. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios. So it's good that we're talking about this. And just some of the ones we didn't mention, I think it is significant as well. So we did talk a little bit about Trevor Lawrence and the situation they have there. Something to consider is they do have James Robinson, and they go draft Travis Etienne. They go sign Marvin Jones. They got Laviska Shenault down there. I mean, they got some pretty solid.
Shark.
Yep, Shark is down there. So they
He did just break a finger, I believe, but that's fixable. That ain't no problem.
Yeah. They attached it to his head or something. It was crazy. But
I would have attached it somewhere else, but
extend a nose maybe. But yeah, man, I'm seeing that he, I understand your concerns with that, but I think if we're looking at a deep league and maybe you can get a really cheap buy here, that's something to consider. But one that I really think we didn't mention, and it kind of slipped both of us, but that's Matt Ryan. Kyle Pitts replaces Julio Jones. They still have Calvin Ridley. The big question mark is what do they do at running back? And Matt Ryan is aging, so there's a lot that's going on there. But that's one to kind of put in that tier 3, almost tier 4, I think.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger's right there. Daniel Jones was not mentioned, and they're getting Saquon back. They go out, sign Kenny Golladay. Sterling Shepard's coming back. I mean, there's some things there, but again, the pressure comes down to.
They still got Evan Ingram.
Yeah, can Daniel Jones perform? That's the biggest question. So one of the ones that I wanted to ask you, I'm going to kind of finish through here, and then I'm going to ask you. So Kirk Cousins, obviously, super good weapons. Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen. Justin Jefferson, they have some solid stuff going on up there. Kirk Cousins could be consistent if he just doesn't throw the picks. Ryan Fitzmagic, obviously, in Washington. Terry McLaurin's obviously the headline there. We did not mention Deshaun Watson, obviously for certain reasons, but where does he, if let's say this is completely set aside, this did not happen at all, his situation, where would you have put Deshaun Watson in your list?
I think if Deshaun Watson, barring everything else aside, I think he has to be a top 10 guy just because he creates plays no matter what. The only reason he wasn't in my top 10 is because, one, Houston is an absolute, like you said earlier, I'm going to take your quote, an absolute dumpster fire. That team did everything to just dismantle itself under Bill O'Brien era. They obviously got rid of all that, brought in new guys, but he would have been a top 10 guy. But I just don't know if there's enough there. And then adding on all the other outside factors with all the allegations and everything. I don't even know if he's going to be in Houston. Now, that does not mean that he can't get traded somewhere. And really, as long as he leaves Houston, he automatically jumps back into my top 10.
Okay.
If the league allows him to play, if he gets traded from Houston, because right now Tyrod Taylor is slotted to be the starter down there in Houston. If Deshaun goes anywhere else other than Houston, he automatically shoots into my top 10. Okay,
I like that. So then the next one that they have is going to be Derek Carr, Jared Goff, Cam Newton, like those tier guys, Drew Lock. But, the reason why I didn't mention a few that are on this list is because I want to get your thoughts. So Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. And then you also have the situation where you have the Andy Dalton and like
Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, you have Andy Dalton and then Justin Fields. Yes. And so that situation there, we talked about the Teddy Bridgewater, potentially kind of what's going on there with Drew Lock. So I think as you get lower and lower, you're really starting to kind of question what's going to happen. I mean, one that is also just popping out of me, and it hurts because I did go sign Cam Newton just because I needed a quarterback in mind. But, how long until the pressure is put on him and then we see Mac Jones, running the helm? So, obviously that all those quarterbacks that we kind of just talked about right there are almost competing with each other. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that the competition is going to be good. From what I've heard out of Chicago has been extremely impressed with Andy Dalton. They said he came in and he has learned the playbook so quickly. Especially, I don't know how the competition is going to go. Andy's a professional. Justin Fields is a rookie. Justin Fields has a tremendous amount of talent. Andy Dalton, I never thought looked good down in Dallas just because I felt like he was uncomfortable with the situation that he was put in, but he wanted to make the paycheck. I understand that. I think this could be a team, Andy Dalton on the Bears, because when he was he took the Bengals to the playoffs about 5 different times under his tutelage. Now, they lost every time, but he has played with good teams, and he knows how to command the league. I mean, he can be 8-8, 9-7. I guess this year now with the extra game, all my records are going to be off now because I'm going to have to add an extra game to everything. So, but I could easily see him going 8-9, 9-8, like being a solid squad with with Chicago. Mm-hmm. But I don't know where I just have a hard time with rookie quarterbacks. Another guy we never even talked about, mainly because he's injured, but barring injury aside, Carson Wentz on the Colts could have been very good. It'll depend on how quickly he can get back from that injury, but he's a guy that you do not draft, but you could definitely pick up later, maybe week 6, week 5, put him in your pocket, because I guarantee what he does with the Colts is going to be a lot better than what he did with the Eagles.
For sure. I think there's a lot of pressure riding on Carson Wentz too, even though he may not really admit that there is. I think this new team is a way for him to be like, look, that's an old scene. I had some issues there. This is a new scene, and it's not starting out good, obviously, with that injury that stems all the way back to his high school days. So, but that would also be a spot that I would look for with this injury. Is Jacob Eason going to be the one that takes the helm? And, the quarterback that they drafted a while back out of Washington, he was supposed to be the next step after Phillip Rivers, but then they go trade for Carson Wentz. So they must not see something in Jacob Eason. That also leads me to the potential, if Justin Fields is truly, truly doing what he's doing, do the Indianapolis Colts go trade for a Andy Dalton or even like a Nick Foles? So those two options are there because Nick Foles is still with the Bears. And so that's going to be an interesting situation. I'm also seeing like Tyrod Taylor with Houston, David Mills with Houston. I think a lot of that is, depending and barring obviously the situation with, what's going on with Deshaun. I'm staying away from either one of those no matter what anyways. So I honestly think that wraps up, man. Mostly the quarterbacks. I think, we didn't say anything about Tua, the old lefty there.
I'm off the Tua train. I've always said this, and you've heard me say this multiple times. I don't trust quarterbacks from Alabama. Name me the last good Alabama quarterback, and I'll tell you you're wrong. Yeah. Unless you say like Ken Stabler or something like. I just don't like Alabama. Now, if you want to say, well, look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts went to Oklahoma after that. So he's an Oklahoma quarterback. That's where he learned to play quarterback.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't give credit to Nick Saban. I don't think he produces quarterbacks. That's why I'm not on the Mac Jones train. Everybody was like, oh, he could be Tom Brady. Nah, don't buy into that hype. I don't believe Alabama quarterbacks do very well in the league because They're surrounded by such a plethora of talent that they don't need to rely on how good they are at quarterback because they're the best team on the field any day of the week. That doesn't help you as a quarterback. The reason Patrick Mahomes became so good was because he learned how to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds weird, but if you don't learn why you failed, let me rephrase that. He learned why he failed. If you don't learn why you fail, you will never learn how to succeed. Alabama quarterbacks, just for some reason, don't translate to the league. I remember we had one at one time, Brody Croyle. Guess where he's at now? Probably bagging groceries or selling insurance. So I don't like Alabama quarterbacks now until somebody proves me wrong, and I don't want Tua to fail. Tua comes out and balls, all the power to him. I will change my mind instantly, but nobody's been able to do it. So I also think that Derek Carr, even though I talk about the Raiders, I don't like the Raiders, I think the skill set that they have with Josh Jacobs, with Darren Waller, and now with what's his name from last year, Henry Ruggs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that him and Darren Waller alone are a really good connection. It's just one of those things where it's Derek Carr. You're relying on somebody from the Carr family. Never been that great. But yeah, those guys could be good. Those guys, the floor is really low though with a lot of those guys. So those are all free agents that you pick up throughout the year. Nobody's drafting Derek Carr unless you got a diehard Raiders fan in your league. So and Cam Newton, I mean, toss up. It's one of those things where Cam just that team, the way Cam plays, he's got one of the worst completion percentages ever since he came in the league. I'll stay away from that. Another guy we didn't mention is Zach Wilson out with the Jets.
Man, they got some okay receivers. It's literally going to come down. Can he even just perform? And the offensive line, obviously, with Becton coming there from Louisville last year, and them really kind of just trying to create anything they possibly can at that offensive line position. I think it's truly going to come down to Zach Wilson. And I mean, I took him in a very, very deep keeper league just because he'll be my backup for that 1 week and maybe a trade piece down the road if someone's interested. But, yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough situation there, man. So I think we covered the quarterbacks pretty solid. You and I talked. We're going to try to pair a very heavy-loaded position with maybe one that's not as heavy. I think tonight would be one that we would consider like a very heavy to a light heavy type. We're going to talk a little bit of tight ends real quick before we wrap this entire thing up. So obviously, I think you and I we'll go down this list real quick. And if we hear anything that is kind of shocking or out of place, then you and I can kind of, argue it. But Travis Kelce, consensus number one from a auction style draft, they're saying $58. I think that's significant. I kind of want to touch on that real quick because like I talked earlier, running backs from an auction style, they're projecting $62 for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, you're talking a very elite tight end. And the next step down is going to be Darren Waller at number 2, who is going for $22. So that tells you how much people value Travis Kelce in an auction.
Kelce was what?
$58.
Wow.
Yeah. A big drop off there to Darren Waller, who I'm not going to say puts up the same numbers, but is pretty consistent.
Yeah, very consistent.
Yeah, so I like Darren Waller there at 2. I definitely would put, from a fantasy perspective, I personally am putting Waller over Kittle. What are your thoughts on that?
I put Waller over Kittle as well, just because of the upside. Yep. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback in San Fran. I know who's going to be the quarterback in Vegas.
Yeah.
I also just think that Waller, as a skill set, by getting the ball, he's really their number one guy.
Yeah.
I mean, so is Kittle, but coming off of the big injury from last year, it's just one of those things. I don't know how they're going to run their offense.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how they're going to, especially with the quarterback situation. Like, and this is really, if I had to project a quarterback situation, I think Garoppolo plays the first couple of weeks, but I don't think they get the production out of him that they want. And as long as they feel comfortable with the evolution of Trey Lance, I think he gets in there.
Yeah.
So at that point, I don't know what that means, because is Trey Lance now a tight end guy? Does he know how to feed who's hungry? Does he know how to really rely on a tight end because not a lot of guys have done that sometimes in college. So I like Waller at 2 because I think there's more security there for him.
Yeah,
There's nobody really competing for his number 1 spot. He is their best receiver on the team, so they're going to game plan around him.
most definitely. Number 3 is George Kittle. I think he can be there. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to 5. And I think you and I would both agree that the people that are going to be listed in 5 are truly like the 5. Mark Andrews is at number 4, and then TJ Hawkinson at 5. And I am okay with Hawkinson being there. I think you could definitely interchange him with maybe 1 or 2 others. I'm seeing here on this list, maybe even 3, but I'm okay with Hawkinson being there because I think with Jared Goff not having a ton of targets and them really they did solidify that offensive line to some degree. So he should have a little bit of time to throw the football. And I do think he's going to be looking to Hawkinson since really he is like that target. Kyle Pitts is coming in at 6. That's surprising to me, but we saw the freak athlete.
A lot of value on Pitts.
Yeah. And again, the auction style draft, this just again shows you the significance of Travis Kelce. $58 drops down to 22 for Waller and Kittle, then to 10 for Mark Andrews, and then to 6 for TJ Hawkinson. So if you guys are looking to add a tight end early in your draft, you can see right there the significance of getting those guys because they truly feel the value falls off once you get to 6. This one's surprising to me. I need to pay attention more. Logan Thomas from Washington. I've heard of him, but I need to pay attention more. What are your thoughts on Logan Thomas?
So it's so funny because if you guys can see, I've actually got Logan Thomas pulled up on my screen right now. Logan Thomas is a guy, he actually used to be a quarterback out of Virginia Tech, 6'6", big body guy. He was a backup quarterback for the Cardinals, reinvented himself as a tight end. And actually, if you look at the last 6 weeks of his season last year, only 1 week out of the last 6 weeks did he have under 6 points. Every other week was 9.4, 15.8, 10.1, 6.3, and 9.7. So he's getting targets. And that was from, I believe at the time, that was Heineke, or that was, I forget when exactly. It might have been Smith at the time. I forget exactly when Smith got hurt. But he quickly developed throughout the season. And the more that they started throwing him the ball, the better that he did. So I think he's a guy that can make a huge splash this year as a kind of a retro or as kind of a converted tight end. You saw the same thing with Darren Waller. Darren Waller was actually a wide receiver from Georgia Tech, came in, switched positions, learned how to become a tight end. Logan Thomas is a big body dude, 6'6", about 250. He can be a very good receiving tight end. So I like Logan as kind of a, maybe not a top 5, but definitely a top 7.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's one of those guys.
Yeah. Number 8 is Dallas Goddard, obviously overtaking Zach Ertz. Noah Fant 9, Robert Tonyan 10, which you kind of mentioned. He had his moments last year. I took him in a very deep league, and I actually had some decent performance from him. It's just Aaron Rodgers likes to hit so many different people, and I think they game plan for certain weeks. So he's going to do a lot better than some, but one that I think you could push up that list, and I really think Tua likes to look towards the tight end, is going to be Mike Gesicki. Yeah, and I like Gesicki. I think he could easily be up in your, replaced there at 5 for TJ. Definitely,
he's a big time. Like, he plays like a receiver to me. So I do like Gesicki. I had him a little bit last year and kind of towards the beginning of the season before they were really bad. But I did like Gesicki. I thought the way he runs his routes are he's got swivel hips, which is what I say about Travis Kelce. He knows how to run routes really well. It's just about having somebody that can get him the ball.
Yeah. And there was quite a few times I think last year where that was the go-to target just because he was that guy on the goal line. So I do like Gesicki. It really kind of falls off after that. You got Irv Smith there in Minnesota. We saw what he could potentially be. It just hasn't quite translated in the NFL yet. Hunter Henry being traded from the Chargers to the New England Patriots, Evan Ingram there in the Giants. He could be consistent if they look that way. Gronkowski, I think my only issue with Gronkowski is that, you have OJ Howard there. You have Cameron Brate still there. So really there's 3 tight ends there. And, Gronk's going to be that guy, but is it the week that he's going to be on the field? There's a lot of question marks always with him. Tyler Higbee, Eric Ebron, Austin Hooper, Cole Kmet, Anthony Fursker.
Jimmy Graham still over there kicking it with Chicago.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, it really does. It translates to what we're looking at from about 5. You could definitely say the top tier is 1 through 5, which we talked about. 6 through 10, I would definitely say is like almost a second tier bleeding into a 3. And then just my thoughts, I think the rest is definitely you just pick one and throw it in there if you got a good matchup for the week. We did mention Jared Cook very early on. They have him.
You haven't talked about Jared. I think. Well, and this is my. I don't know if you're going to ask me about mine or. I put Jared in my top 7 to 8. I think,
okay.
And honestly, I might put him at number 6 because I believe as long as they get everything set in over there in I guess where are they at now? They're in LA, about in San Diego. As long as they can get everything set, I think Jared's going to have a year that he had 2 or 3 years ago when he was with the Raiders, and they used him like they use Darren Waller now.
Yeah.
I think Jared Cook's going to come in and do a lot more of that. So I look for him. They've got him rated low. I watch out because I think he's going to have another breakout season. Even though he is probably 34 now, he's still a little older, but the guy can still ball.
Antonio Gates was doing it well into that time, and I'm not saying Jared Cook is. And I'm not saying Antonio Gates is by no means, I'm not saying Jared Cook is by no means Antonio Gates, but that is kind of the resemblance you're going to see in that offense, I think. And I definitely think Cook is going to be able to still ball out a little bit. One that I honestly, man, I'd like to hear your top 5. Just kind of run me through your top 5 real quick, and then I got some fun questions I was going to ask you.
For sure. So my top 5, Travis Kelce easily number 1, no debate. You already went over it. I don't even got to go over that. Darren Waller is going to be my number 2. I just think he is the number 1 receiver on that team.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to put George Kittle at number 3 just because of the upside. George Kittle is a previous record holder for yards in a season.
Yes.
He is one of the most charismatic players on that entire offense. He's also the leader of that offense. I don't believe Garoppolo really is. It just comes down to, is the quarterback play going to be there to get him the ball? And if he can avoid injury, obviously he's not usually injury prone, but just one of those things. He's also part of that Iowa tight end school that they just produce monsters. So, as far as I'm going to go 4, 5, and 6 for you. Okay.
Okay.
TJ Hopkinson out, not in my top 6 at all. I just don't believe that Jared Goff's a good quarterback. I think he had Sean McVay, who was amazing. He also had just kind of a freak season with all the weapons around him. He is not that good of a quarterback. I do not put him in that. Also, I just don't. He doesn't yak too much. He doesn't have a lot of yards after a catch. He has to have a lot of catches to get a lot of yards.
Yes.
Now, that's good for PPR, but I like a guy who can go 3 for 69 and a touchdown. You know what I mean? So I don't like what he brings to the table. Kyle Pitts, to me, I'm going to keep him out of my top 6 strictly based on the fact that I don't know if he's going to be able to compete at 230 pounds as a tight end.
Yes.
I just don't know. Now, I'm going to probably eat my words this season on that because he probably will do very good, especially if he's one of the main targets for Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
I think Matt Ryan realizes the sun's kind of setting now on his career, but he still has probably about 3 or 4 good years left. So he could Kyle Pitts could be the new emerging rising star on Atlanta. So he's probably going to be at my number 7, right outside my top 6. For number 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to go Jared Cook. I'm going to go Robert Tonyan at 4 because I like that he's got a second year now with Aaron Rodgers, and they never really had a great tight end. They had Jermichael Finley for a while. They had Jimmy Graham, but he didn't really work out for them. I think Tunyon does everything that Robert likes, and they love him in the red zone, so he's going to get you touchdowns.
Okay.
So he's going to be my number 4. My number 5, I think I'm going to have to go with Mark Andrews. He did really good last year for the Ravens. They do like to run that, fake run, dump off to the tight end. He's kind of one that I'm on the fence about a little bit, but I think that he's going to continue to progress. And then my number 6 is going to be Jared Cook. But him and Mark Andrews could be interchangeable at 5 and 6. I think Jared Cook probably has more upside than Mark does because of he's playing with Herbert, who's a prolific passer, and Lamar Jackson is not.
Yep. Got it, man.
So maybe we'll switch those. I'll put Jared Cook at number 5. I'll put Mark Andrews at number 6.
Most definitely. I think it's tough for tight ends because honestly, I would even say out of the top 3, it really is like, where do you take those guys and do you value? I mean, you almost have to like value receivers sometimes or even a running back more once you get past those top 3. Like if those top 3 go off the board, you almost have to be like, I'd much rather fill a spot with a much more solid piece that's going to get me a lot of points, and maybe I'm plugging in a tight end that's getting me 6 to 8 every week versus, that number 1 guy. So it's a really tough situation. So my fun question for you, man, and I really think that this is going to be kind of tough for you, I believe, because it was tough for me. All right. In 2013, this gentleman led his team to a 13-3 record. He had 450 completions out of 659 attempts. His completion percentage was basically 68%. He threw for 5,477 yards. He had 55 touchdowns in a single season. He was recently awarded the Hall of Fame. Where would you put that year of Peyton Manning in your fantasy draft? Like, where would you rank him in your quarterbacks that you listed?
I think he'd have to. Do you know the total amount of points he scored that year?
I don't. I would have to actually go back and look because I was actually trying to find that, and I couldn't find anything. I just remember the epic numbers, and I definitely wanted to be accurate and provide those. But
I mean, that was his year. Obviously, they went to the Super Bowl. They had Demaryius Thomas. They were out there rolling on teams. I believe he had Wes Welker. He had Demaryius Thomas. He also had Brandon Marshall. Was that the year he had Brandon Marshall as well?
I think so, but I think Emmanuel Sanders was still there too.
Really? So he had Welker, Sanders, Emmanuel, and Demaryius Thomas?
Yeah, because that was when Emmanuel basically was like, I'm coming to Kansas City, flies out to Denver, and then signs.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most epic quarterback seasons of all time when you look at what he put up there. I mean, that's on par with like Jamal Charles's like 2012, 2013, 2014 year. I mean, the guy was just putting up insane numbers. So if I had to are you asking me where I'm putting Peyton in my list for right now?
Yeah. So like if out of the quarterbacks we listed, where are you putting him on your list?
Oh shoot, man. He's only because I'm going to be super biased. He's going to go number 2.
Okay.
I'm still picking Patty Mahomes over him because Patty, I think, can easily match those numbers with the repertoire, with the weapons that he has. But there's nobody I'm picking other than those 2 guys at my number 1 pick. So if Patty was off the board, it would easily be Peyton Manning next. So those guys can be 1s and 2s.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and obviously we're predicting. We know what the season and the performance he had, so it's a little bit, But I think if you compare the year that Mahomes threw for what he did in his MVP season compared to like Manning's years, that could easily be 1 and 2. And those could be interchangeable, most definitely. But man, that's incredible to see the 5,477 yards, 55 touchdowns. I mean, that's incredible. He threw for 10
How many
picks.
picks did he have?
10.
Jesus.
10. he threw a boatload of picks. Obviously, his first year, he threw 28. I mean, he threw 26 and 28. Like, that's a Jameis Winston type of year. But then, it really progressively got better as he got later, and then that's obviously when he became the true Peyton Manning. I mean, it's incredible to look at these stats. So, yeah, man, I was curious to find out. I would probably do the same. I honestly would have to put him potentially, knowing the season he had at 1, just because of that. But, man, Peyton Manning, I've had him a couple times in fantasy, and I remember the years where you knew you were getting those points, and it was just an incredible, incredible thing. So then that leads me to the next fun question. Where are you putting Tony G?
Number 2, because Travis Kelce is the greatest tight end of all time. And it pains me to say that because I grew up watching Tony Gonzalez.
Yes.
There would be no Travis Kelce in my mind if there was not a Tony Gonzalez. You have your great tight ends of all time. You have your Kellen Winslows. You have your it really goes Kellen Winslow, and then at the same time, Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez played at the same time. And I think that almost took away from the greatness of maybe one of them because both of them were doing it. So I think people maybe thought, oh, man, these guys can do it. Other people can do it. No. Those two just happen to be the best of all time at the exact same time. So, in my opinion, the greatest tight ends of all time, as much as I love Tony G, it goes Travis Kelce, Tony G, and then Antonio Gates. So if I'm putting Tony on this list, he still has to go number 2 because I think Travis's run after the catch is a little bit better than Tony's was. And I just think with Patrick, he gets the ball just that much more with Patrick Mahomes.
And I always consider, too, if Tony Gonzalez had a Tyreek Hill in his offense, would he have been the player he was? Yeah. And, Tony Gonzalez was that guy. When you needed something, he was that guy.
He very easily could have been the Travis, and he really was. I mean, nobody will ever probably break Tony's catch record is fantastic.
Man.
I mean, the amount of catches that he had throughout his career. But Travis is the fact that 2 of the greatest tight ends that ever played the game both played for the Chiefs, what a godsend for the Chiefs.
Yeah, man.
So, and lucky for me, I should have worn my Tony Gonzalez shirt. I wore it last week on the show, but yeah, man. So I'd have to put Tony at my number 2 strictly because I think what Travis has done we'll probably never see again.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Well, I think that wraps it up, man. I wore my Jason Voorhees Kansas City shirt because I knew we would kill it. See what I did there? See what I did there? So I really appreciate you coming on, man. This is going to be an incredible series. We're going to continue up. I believe the next one, we might change it up. I was going to try to go running backs, but I think we'll solely focus on receivers this next go-around because there's so many of them.
There's a ton.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to take a while to get through that. So we'll just knock out receivers next, and we'll get through it. But, man, this series is going to be tons of fun. And then I do want to get maybe you and I can just schedule a mock draft at some point, and we can film it or whatever. And I was even going to try to do a Fuzzies live, and we'll see. We'll get it all figured out. We got time, guys. We got time. And, our first preseason game for the Kansas City Chiefs and for most NFL teams is coming up. So, it's going to be exciting. So you guys know how we wrap this up. You know how we close her out. As always, I appreciate you guys checking out the Beat of KC. Blake, I appreciate you coming on, and have a good day. Oh, I got to find the end button. Where's it at? Oh, where did it go?
This is when most of the flub ups happen, is when people think they're off camera.
Ended.